No one at Harborview Veterans Medical Center wanted to fight for the paralyzed Navy SEAL in room 412. The doctors called him impossible. The administrators called him expensive. The staff called him violent because his eyes still knew how to accuse people. Only one quiet nurse in bright blue scrubs believed his silence was not surrender. And when he whispered one broken word that no civilian in the ward understood, she leaned close and answered with a call sign from a mission that had officially never happened. Before we begin, welcome to the channel. If this story pulls you in, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment where you are listening from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Stop wasting resources on a dead career. Dr. Everett Sloan said it softly at the foot of bed 412. That made it worse. The man in the bed heard him. Everyone knew he heard him. Lieutenant Commander Caleb Rourke lay beneath a thin hospital blanket, still from the neck down, eyes fixed on the ceiling tiles. 6 months earlier, he had been a Navy SEAL team leader with shoulders like a doorframe and a record nobody in the hospital was cleared to read. Now he needed help turning his head, needed help swallowing, needed help being moved so his skin would not break down. To Sloan, that meant finished. To the board, that meant expensive. To most of the staff, that meant dangerous in a quiet way. To Rachel Callahan, it meant something was wrong. She stood beside the medication cart in bright, vivid blue scrubs that looked too loose on her lean body. Her light brown hair was twisted into a tired knot. Her gray-blue eyes stayed lowered because quiet nurses survived longer in wards ruled by proud doctors. But Rachel was not looking at the floor. She was watching Caleb Rourke's right eyelid. It moved. One blink. Pause. 2 blinks. Pause. A pattern. Dr. Sloan turned to the residents behind him. Document no meaningful motor recovery, he said. Continue passive range of motion. Prepare family counseling for long-term placement. A young resident named Neil Parker shifted his weight. Sir, Nurse Callahan noted blood pressure drops when his neck is extended. Sloan looked at him, then at Rachel. Nurse Callahan notes many things. A few people smiled, not loudly, just enough. Rachel kept her face still. Sloan tapped the tablet. This patient has complete paralysis below C4. No functional recovery, no surgical pathway. What he has is a decorated service record and a ward full of sentimental people confusing sacrifice with prognosis. Caleb blinked once. Hard. Rachel stepped closer. His vitals spike every time his pillow is too high. Sloan's smile appeared slowly. Are you suggesting the patient is diagnosing himself through your imagination? No, sir. Then what are you suggesting? That his injury may not be as complete as the file says. The room went still. A therapist stopped writing. A respiratory tech stared at the monitor. Everyone knew the rule in Sloan's unit. Do not contradict him. Do not mention missed diagnoses. Do not make him look small in front of trainees. Rachel knew the rule too. She had survived worse rules. Sloan stepped toward her. Miss Callahan, this is a neurological rehabilitation service, not a battlefield tent, not a television drama. Instinct does not outrank imaging. Rachel felt the old world stir inside her. Rotor wash, sand in her teeth, a man screaming through blood, her own voice cutting through gunfire. Neutral spine. Keep him breathing. Do not let him disappear. She swallowed it down. Yes, doctor. Sloan lowered his voice. You have been here 11 months. In that time you have questioned 2 medication plans, 3 transfers, and now my prognosis. I documented patient safety concerns. You documented arrogance. Rachel said nothing. Sloan looked around the room. This is what happens when nurses spend too much time on veteran wards. They start believing patriotism is a credential. Nobody laughed this time. Caleb's eyes moved to Rachel. Not pleading, commanding. Do something. Rachel forced herself to stay still. She was a nurse here. Only a nurse. No rank, no call sign, no aircraft overhead, no harness biting into her shoulders as she dropped into smoke to reach men nobody else could reach. Only Rachel Callahan, 35, quiet, useful, invisible. Sloan leaned over Caleb. Commander Rourke, denial is common after catastrophic injury. We will help you adjust. Caleb's lips moved. No sound came. Rachel saw it. The others did not. She moved closer. Commander, Sloan snapped, do not engage him. Caleb's eyes locked on hers. His lips moved again. Rachel bent lower. A rasp came out, one broken syllable. Harp. Rachel froze. Not harp, harpoon. The call sign belonged to one man from an operation that did not exist on any civilian record. Harpoon had been the voice on the radio in Blackwater. Harpoon had marked the landing zone while everything burned. Harpoon had shouted coordinates through static while Rachel dropped from a helicopter into a storm to reach a wounded SEAL team pinned between cliffs and tide. Gulf of Aden. 6 years ago. Classified recovery. No names. No paperwork anyone here could read. Caleb Rourke should not have known her face, but his eyes knew her. Sloan folded his arms. What did he say? Rachel did not answer. Caleb's eyes narrowed. He was fighting his body, fighting the silence. Rachel leaned close. Harpoon, she whispered. His eyes flooded. A tremor crossed his throat. Not enough to move his body, enough to prove he was still in there. Rachel straightened. Every face in the room had changed. Parker stared. The therapist looked from Caleb to Rachel. Sloan's eyes sharpened. What did you call him? His call sign. There is no call sign in this file. No. Then how do you know it? Rachel looked at Caleb. His eyes did not leave hers. Because you were there. Because you found us. Because you pulled us out. Rachel turned back to Sloan. He needs repeat imaging now. Absolutely not. Doctor, you will not manipulate this unit with military theater. Rachel's hands went still. The small tremor she wore around civilians disappeared. Her shoulders squared by 1 inch. The room noticed. Sloan did not. You are relieved from this patient, he said. Caleb blinked hard. Once. Twice. Again. Rachel read it. No. You cannot remove the only staff member he can communicate with, she said. I can remove a disruptive nurse. The monitor alarmed. Heart rate 48, blood pressure 86/50. Caleb's skin had gone pale under the beard shadow on his jaw. Rachel looked at the pillow. It had shifted during the exam. His chin was slightly extended. Too much. His pressure is dropping, she said. Sloan barely glanced over. Vagal response. His neck is extended. Rachel reached for the pillow. Sloan caught her wrist. Not hard, just enough. The room went cold. Rachel looked at his hand, then at his face. Every hidden part of her went silent. Distance, grip angle, exit path. No. This was a hospital. She eased her wrist free. Move your hand, doctor. The monitor screamed louder. Heart rate 39, oxygen 90. Parker stepped forward. Maybe we should reposition him. Sloan snapped. Stay where you are. Rachel moved anyway. She pulled the pillow down and supported Caleb's neck with both hands. Neutral alignment, she said. No extension. Heart rate 36. Caleb's eyes widened. He could not breathe right. Rachel's voice changed. Not louder. Deeper. Parker, call rapid response. Respiratory, get suction and airway cart. Lisa, page neurosurgery and say possible cervical cord compression with autonomic collapse. Nobody moved. Rachel looked up. Now. They moved. The command cracked through them before Sloan could stop it. Sloan's face darkened. You have no authority. I do if he is crashing. You are risking discipline. Put it in my file. The rapid response team arrived in a rush of rolling equipment. A critical care nurse named Denise took one look at the monitor. What happened? Acute bradycardia and hypotension after neck extension, Rachel said. Possible high cervical compression. Airway risk, atropine ready. Sloan cut in. Overreaction, chronic spinal cord injury. Rachel ignored him. He responds to neutral positioning. Cognition intact. Blink pattern confirmed. Denise looked at Caleb. Commander, blink once if you understand. One blink. Blink once if your neck hurts. One blink. The room went quiet. Denise looked back at Rachel. Okay, Rachel said. 0.5 milligram atropine IV. Prepare to repeat. Keep him flat. Sloan barked. I did not order medication. Denise looked at the monitor, then at Rachel, then at Sloan. With respect, doctor, he is symptomatic. Give it, Rachel said. Denise gave it. Heart rate climbed. 34, 38, 45. Caleb's eyes stayed on Rachel. She held his head like that was the only thing keeping him tethered to the world. A neurosurgery fellow arrived 7 minutes later, irritated and breathless. What is the emergency? Sloan stepped forward. Miscommunication. Rachel cut through him. High cervical injury patient with autonomic collapse triggered by neck extension. New pain response by blink confirmation. Prior imaging may have missed dynamic compression or evolving epidural hematoma. He needs MRI with strict neutral precautions. The fellow stared. Who are you? Sloan answered first. A nurse who is about to be suspended. The fellow looked at Caleb. Commander, blink once for yes, twice for no. Do you understand me? 1 blink. Neck pain? 1 blink. Worse with extension? 1 blink. The fellow turned to Sloan. Why was neurosurgery not called before? Sloan's voice cooled. No indication. Rachel held out her notes. There was. The fellow read fast. 7 days of blood pressure drops. 7 days of bradycardia with positioning. 7 days of blink patterns. 7 days ignored. His expression hardened. Get him to MRI. Sloan went white. Rachel walked beside the gurney as they rolled Caleb out. Veterans watched from open doors, some in wheelchairs, some with canes, all silent. Sloan caught up near the elevator. You are not going with him. Rachel did not slow. Yes, I am. You have been removed. Remove me after he is stable. He stepped in front of the gurney. You do not understand consequences. Rachel stopped. The hallway filled behind her. Therapists, nurses, residents, veterans. Caleb's eyes fixed on the ceiling. Rachel's voice dropped. I understand consequences better than you think. Sloan leaned closer. You know one call sign and suddenly you think you are part of something. Rachel's face went still. I was part of something. Parker's head snapped up. Denise stopped pushing the cart. Sloan narrowed his eyes. What did you say? Rachel looked past him to Caleb. His eyes were open, wet, furious, alive. She looked back at Sloan. I said move. For 1 second, nobody breathed. Then Sloan moved. The elevator doors opened. Rachel rolled inside with Caleb. As the doors closed, his lips moved. No sound. But she knew the word. Wraith. Her old call sign. The one she had buried with the dead. The elevator door shut. And for the first time in 6 years, Rachel Callahan felt the past rising from the grave. The MRI suite was cold, blue, and too clean for memories. Rachel stood beside Caleb's stretcher with one hand near his shoulder and her eyes on the curve of his neck. The neurosurgery fellow, Dr. Amira Desai, studied the monitor while the tech prepared the scanner. Doctor. Sloan waited near the wall. Quiet now. Quiet men planned. Caleb's blood pressure had improved, but not enough. His pulse hovered in the low 50s. Every small shift in posture made the numbers tremble. Rachel leaned close. I need you still, Harpoon. 1 blink, yes. Desai glanced over. Harpoon? Call sign. From where? Rachel looked at the machine. Somewhere wet. Caleb's eyes softened. Desai understood enough not to push. The tech reached for a thick head cushion. Rachel caught his wrist. Not that one. He frowned. It is standard. It extends him. Sloan spoke from the wall. Miss Callahan, stop interfering with trained personnel. Desai looked at the monitor. Use the flat pad. The tech obeyed. The scan began. The machine thumped like a steel heart. Rachel watched through the glass as slices of Caleb's cervical spine appeared on the screen. Old trauma. Cord swelling. Scar tissue. Then something else. A small dark pressure point at C3, C4. Rachel saw it before anyone spoke. Desai leaned forward. Pause there. The image sharpened. Her face changed. Rachel's stomach dropped. There, Rachel said. Sloan stepped closer. Artifact. Desai clicked to another view. The shadow remained. Not artifact. Sloane's tone hardened. This does not explain complete paralysis. No, Rachel said, but it may explain why he is not recovering. Desai looked at her. If the original blast stunned the cord and this kept pressing on it, preserved pathways could be buried, not gone. Rachel looked through the glass at Caleb. His body lay trapped inside the machine. His eyes were closed because he had to keep them closed. She remembered another trapped man. A ledge above black water. Gunfire striking rock. A radio voice breaking through static. Wraith, this is Harpoon. LZ compromised. Tide rising. Move fast. She had moved fast. She had jumped into water so cold it stole thought. She had climbed slick rock with a rescue pack on her back and a sidearm under her harness. Caleb Rourke had kept the radio alive with 2 broken ribs and a blood-slick hand. He called her Wraith because she came out of the storm like a ghost. She saved him once. Then the war took her somewhere else. Then Eli Mason died. Then Rachel stopped answering to call signs. Desai called the attending neurosurgeon. Dr. Leonard Kim arrived 20 minutes later, silver-haired, compact, and tired in the way good surgeons were tired. He reviewed the images in silence. He stopped on the same frame. Who called this? Desai said. Nurse Callahan identified the pattern. Kim looked at Rachel. You got all this from vitals and blinking? Yes. Military? Former Air Force medical? Flight nurse? No. His eyes narrowed. PJ? The room changed. Sloane looked at Rachel. Desai looked again. Rachel said nothing. Kim nodded as if silence was enough. Thought so. Sloane cut in. Dr. Kim, we cannot base surgery on military mystique. Kim kept his eyes on the image. I am basing it on compression. The lesion is small. The cord is angry. He is 6 months out, and may have been mishandled for 7 days. That landed hard. Rachel watched Sloane calculate. Liability, reputation, control. Not Caleb. Never Caleb. Kim turned to the stretcher. Commander Rourke, surgery is risky. No miracle promised. But if this is compression, removing it may give you a chance. Caleb blinked once before Kim finished. Yes. Sloane said, he cannot consent with blinking. Rachel leaned over Caleb. Commander, blink once for yes, twice for no. Is your name Caleb Rourke? 1 blink. Are you at Harborview Veterans Medical Center? 1 blink. Is Dr. Sloane making you angry? A pause, then 1 slow blink. Someone behind them coughed to hide a laugh. Sloane flushed. Rachel continued. Do you understand surgery could make you worse? 1 blink. Do you understand doing nothing could leave you as you are? 1 blink. Do you want Dr. Kim to evaluate you for decompression? 1 blink. Kim nodded. That is consent enough for ethics and legal. The next hour became paperwork and war. Legal wanted forms, ethics wanted documentation, administration wanted risk analysis, Sloane wanted control, Rachel wanted time. Caleb had less of it than any of them understood. She stayed with him while the hospital argued over his body in conference rooms. His pressure dipped twice. Each time Rachel corrected his neck and talked him through it. Breathe with the machine. 1 blink. Do not go back to the ledge. Just remember the part where you stayed awake because I told you to. His eyes shone. You were mouthier back then. 1 blink. Yes, you were. His mouth twitched. Almost. Not movement enough for anyone else. Rachel noticed. Sloane appeared alone in the doorway. That was never good. Miss Callahan. Doctor. I spoke with administration. You are suspended pending review. Caleb's eyes flared. Rachel kept her hand near his shoulder. Effective when? Immediately. I am monitoring an unstable patient. Another nurse can sit with him. He trusts me. He does not need trust. He needs care. Rachel turned. That sentence is how he got this far without anyone hearing him. Sloane stepped closer. You are not a hero. No. You are a nurse with boundary issues and unresolved trauma. There it was. The favorite weapon of men who feared competent women. Call conviction instability. Call memory trauma. call experience baggage. Anything except admit she saw what they missed. Sloan continued. I checked your file. Gaps in employment. Incomplete military history. You are hiding something. Rachel said, everyone here is hiding something. Not like you. Caleb blinked hard. Rachel put 2 fingers lightly on the sheet beside his hand. Easy. Sloan watched the gesture. How do you know him? From before. Before what? Before he was your inconvenience. Dr. Kim returned with Desai and an ethics officer. Kim looked between them. Problem? Sloan said. Miss Callahan has been suspended. Kim said, unsuspend her. You cannot do that. I need her for communication. Patient responds to her best. She is compromised. She is useful. The word hit Sloan. Useful. Not dramatic, not special. Useful. He had no clean argument against it. The ethics officer asked Caleb, do you want Nurse Callahan present during consent? One blink. She stays, the officer said. They took Caleb to surgery at 6:40 p.m. The rehab wing had changed by then. Word had spread. Veterans lined the hallway, some in wheelchairs, some with walkers. An older Marine stood with both hands shaking on his cane. A Vietnam veteran raised 2 fingers in a weak salute. Caleb could not return it. His eyes filled instead. Rachel walked beside him. Near the surgical elevators, an administrator named Marcy Bell blocked the path with 2 folders clutched to her chest. We need to pause. Kim did not stop. No. Risk management has concerns. Risk management can meet us in the OR. Bell looked at Caleb like he was a liability code. This indication is disputed. Rachel said, his spinal cord is compressed. Bell looked at her. And you are the suspended nurse? The monitor began to dip. Heart rate 46, then 42. Rachel stepped to the head of the stretcher. Move. Bell blinked. Excuse me? His pressure is dropping. You are delaying transport. Move. Sloan said, this is exactly the behavior I warned about. Heart rate 38. Caleb's face went gray. Rachel lowered the head 2 degrees. Neutral neck, atropine ready. Bell finally backed away. The elevator opened. Kim stopped Sloan from entering. No, I am his attending neurologist. You were. The doors began to close. Sloan's face twisted. This is not over. Rachel met his eyes through the narrowing gap. For him it might be if we keep listening to you. The doors closed. No one spoke for 3 floors. Then Denise exhaled. I have wanted to say that to him for 5 years. Rachel looked at Caleb. His eyes were on her. One blink. Yes. The OR team received him fast. Rachel helped transfer him with strict spine precautions. She checked his neck one last time before anesthesia took him. Caleb's eyes searched for her. She leaned close. You are not back on that ledge. One blink. You are not alone. One blink. I found you once. I am not losing you because a doctor loves being right. His lips moved. A breath. Then the whisper came. Wraith. The anesthesiologist looked up. Desai froze. Kim's eyes sharpened. Rachel touched Caleb's shoulder. Sleep, Harpoon. His eyes closed. Rachel stepped back. Kim looked at her over his mask. Wraith? That name stays in this room. He nodded. Rachel left before anyone could ask more. Outside, the hallway felt too bright. Her hands finally started to shake. She pressed them against the wall. 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out, again. She had not heard that call sign in 6 years. Not from a living mouth. Not since Eli Mason died with one hand trapped in hers. Wraith, he had whispered in the aircraft before the monitors went flat. Tell them I was not scared. She had lied to him. You were never scared, she had said. He smiled because they both knew fear lived in brave people too. That was what made bravery matter. Rachel pushed away from the wall. Sloan and Bell waited near the nurses' station with 2 security guards. Bell opened a folder. Rachel Callahan, pending investigation into unauthorized decision-making, insubordination, and possible falsification of professional history. Your employment is suspended effective immediately. Rachel looked toward the OR doors. My patient is in surgery. "He is not your patient anymore," Sloan said. The OR intercom sounded. "Need 2 units O, negative to OR4. Now." Rachel turned. Bell snapped. "Miss Callahan." Rachel said, "Not now." Sloan stepped in front of her. "You are finished." The old Rachel would have lowered her eyes, would have disappeared, would have let men like him mistake restraint for weakness. But Caleb had said, "Wraith." Some names once spoken became orders. Rachel looked Sloan in the eyes. "No," she said, "I am just done hiding." Then she pushed past him and ran toward the OR. The OR corridor did not care about hospital politics. It cared about speed. Rachel hit the double doors and moved toward OR4 before the desk nurse could stand. "Miss, you cannot go in there. Call security later." "Miss." Rachel turned just enough for the nurse to see her face. The woman stopped. Rachel did not know what she looked like in that moment. She only knew people had stopped arguing with that face somewhere between her first rescue hoist and the night she intubated a gunner upside down inside a burning aircraft. She scrubbed fast. Inside OR4, controlled chaos had started to fray. Caleb lay prone, head secured, draped for surgery. Dr. Kim worked over the cervical field. Desai suctioned. The anesthesiologist stood rigid at the head. Blood had pooled too fast. Not catastrophic yet. Close. Kim looked up. "You should not be here." "Then use me quickly." He hesitated 1 second. Pressure dropped. Venous bleeding, anatomy distorted. Exposure is poor. Rachel scanned the monitors. Blood pressure 72/38. Heart rate 118. Different problem now. Blood loss. She scanned the room. Suction, sponges, fluids, temperature, medications, everything. That was what PJs did. They entered impossible spaces and built order from pieces. "Warm him," she said. The circulating nurse blinked. Kim said, "Do it." "Calcium ready?" Anesthesia answered. "Drawing." "TXA?" Kim looked at her. "If bleeding continues," Rachel said, 1 gram over 10 minutes if no contraindication." "Do it," Kim said. The door burst open. Sloan stood outside the sterile boundary with Bell and security. "Remove her." Nobody moved. Kim did not look up. "If anyone touches her before I finish this decompression, I will name them in the operative note." The guards froze. Bell said, "She is suspended." Kim said, "She is not touching the patient." Sloan snapped, "She is directing care." "She is giving useful observations," Kim said. "Try it sometime." Desai almost smiled behind her mask. Rachel did not. Her eyes stayed on the monitor. Blood pressure 78, then 84. "Responding," anesthesia said. Kim reached deeper. The wound was small from where Rachel stood. The danger was not. A dark collection sat against the cord where it had no right to be. Pressure in the wrong place. A life paused by millimeters. Rachel heard Caleb's whisper again. "Wraith." Nobody at Harborview knew she had been Air Force pararescue. Her file said Air Force medical technician, not a lie. Just a locked door. People filled locked doors with whatever made them comfortable. Night nurse, transfer, quiet, maybe broken, maybe nobody. Nobody guessed parachutes, black water, cliff extractions, blood under aircraft lights. Tactical medicine in places where hospitals were rumors. Nobody guessed she had once been lowered by hoist into a canyon while rounds struck the rocks around her. Nobody guessed she had been awarded medals she never displayed. Nobody guessed Eli Mason's death had made her walk away from the uniform and into the VA system, where she could save veterans one at a time and pretend that was smaller. Kim said, "There." The collection released, not dramatically, just dark blood under suction. The pressure came off. Everyone felt it. Blood pressure, 96/58. Heart rate, 94. Anesthesia exhaled. "Better," Desai whispered. "Cord is pulsing." Rachel closed her eyes for half a second. Not a miracle. Never a miracle. A chance. Kim finished an hour later. "Decompression complete," he said. "We will not know function until he wakes." Rachel stripped off gown and gloves and stepped into the corridor. Security straightened. Belle lifted her folder. Rachel Callahan, come with us. Rachel wiped her hands. Where is he going? ICU, Kim said behind her. I will give handoff. Sloan laughed. You will give nothing. You interfered for the last time. Rachel turned. The corridor had filled. Nurses, residents, transport staff, Desai, Kim, Belle, security, everyone watching. Sloan wanted public punishment. He had done it to nurses for years. He had chosen the wrong one. Rachel's voice stayed calm. Dr. Sloan, you missed a compressive lesion. You are not qualified to make that statement. Dr. Kim found it. After you biased the team. You ignored 7 days of documented autonomic instability. You are suspended. You tried to remove the only person the patient trusted. You are unstable. Rachel stepped closer. Careful, Belle said. That sounded like a threat. Rachel did not look away from Sloan. No, it was a warning to stop lying in front of witnesses. The corridor went silent. Kim said, Administration should explain why a nurse was suspended after identifying a surgical emergency. Desai added, her notes were accurate. Parker appeared at the end of the hall. I reviewed them too. She flagged the pattern days ago. Sloan turned. Parker swallowed. You dismissed them. Sloan's face drained of color. Before he could answer, a new voice came from behind them. What is happening here? A man in a dark suit stood near the OR entrance with a visitor badge clipped to his lapel. Early 50s, broad shoulders, close-cropped gray hair. Beside him stood a Navy captain in dress uniform and a woman carrying a legal folder. Rachel knew the posture. Military. Operational. The captain's eyes landed on her. Are you Nurse Callahan? Yes. I am Captain Daniel Mercer, Naval Special Warfare Liaison. This is Commander Rourke's medical power of attorney representative, Helen Ward. We were notified of emergency surgery. Sloan recovered first. Captain, I am Dr. Everett Sloan. There has been a disruption by this nurse. Mercer did not look at him. He called someone Wraith before anesthesia. The corridor changed. Rachel felt every face turn. Sloan seized on it. You see? Military role-playing. Captain Mercer turned slowly. Doctor, I would stop talking. Sloan blinked. Mercer stepped closer to Rachel. You are Wraith? Rachel's mouth went dry. She had imagined being found. Never like this. Not in bright blue scrubs outside an OR while a cruel neurologist tried to erase her. Rachel said, Not anymore. Mercer's eyes softened. Staff Sergeant Rachel Callahan, Air Force Pararescue, 38th Rescue Squadron attached to Joint Special Operations, Gulf of Aden Recovery, Helmand Extraction. Korengal Medevac under fire. Belle's folder lowered. Parker stared. Desai's eyes widened. Sloan went pale. Mercer continued. Silver Star, Distinguished Flying Cross with Valor. Bronze Star, 2 Purple Hearts. Call sign Wraith. Rachel kept her hands at her sides. Do not shake. Rachel gave the ICU handoff in clipped exact sentences. No one interrupted. Caleb was moved to ICU at 9:18 p.m. Rachel rode beside him, checking every line, every strap, every inch of his neck position. In the room, she placed the call bell where his cheek could reach it, if the smallest movement returned first. Tiny hope, practical hope, the only kind worth having. At 11:06 p.m., Caleb began to wake. Harpoon, Rachel said. His eyes opened, clouded, then focused. You are in ICU. Surgery is over. Pressure is off the cord. No promises. But you made it. 1 blink. Neck pain? 2 blinks. No. Can you feel anything different? A long pause. Rachel touched his left foot. 2 blinks. No. Left shin. No. Knee. No. Thigh. No. Outside of left shoulder. 1 blink. Parker whispered from the doorway. That was absent yesterday. Rachel said, Document it. Caleb's lips moved. Rachel leaned close. A broken whisper came out. Wraith. The room froze. Rachel swallowed. I am here. He tried again. Found me. Yes, she whispered. I found you. At midnight. Sloan returned to the ICU doors. How's the patient? Better than you expected. I want to review his chart. No. Before he could answer, Thomas Greer from Hospital Operations stepped into the hall with Captain Mercer beside him. Tonight, Dr. Sloan, you are relieved from Commander Rourke's case pending review. Sloan stared. This is my unit. Not tonight, Greer said. Inside the room, a soft movement alarm sounded. Through the glass, Caleb's eyes were open and fixed on Sloan. His jaw worked. Rachel stepped inside. What? Caleb forced the words through a throat that had almost forgotten speech. Not dead. The room stopped breathing. He swallowed and tried again. Not yours. Rachel looked back at Sloan. He said he is not dead, she said. And he is not yours. No one defended Sloan after that. He walked away under the eyes of every person he had ever made feel small. When the ward finally quieted, Captain Mercer approached with a phone in his hand. Air Force Special Warfare is sending Colonel Adrian Vale, he said. Rachel's stomach dropped. Vale had been her final commanding officer, the man who signed her separation papers, the man who found her outside the morgue after Eli Mason died and said, You can leave the uniform, Callahan. Do not confuse leaving with healing. Mercer watched her face. He asked for you by name. Rachel looked through the glass at Caleb, alive because one call sign had dragged her past into the light. The first battle was over. The harder one had just begun. Colonel Adrian Vale arrived at Harborview Veterans Medical Center at 0640 the next morning. He did not arrive with sirens. He did not arrive with a convoy. He came through the front entrance in a plain dark coat, carrying one leather folder and wearing the tired face of a man who had spent his life delivering bad news without blinking. Rachel saw him before he saw her. She stood behind the nurse's station with Caleb Rourke's chart open in front of her. Pretending to read lab values she already knew by heart. Vale still moved like command. Not loud, not hurried. People simply got out of his way before they understood why. He was 52 now, maybe 53. Silver had taken most of his hair. A thin scar ran from his left cheekbone to his ear. His shoulders still filled the coat like armor. Captain Mercer walked beside him. Dr. Everett Sloan followed 3 steps behind them, pale and stiff, trying to look offended instead of afraid. Rachel closed the chart. Vale stopped in front of her. For 3 seconds, neither of them spoke. Then he said, Callahan. Her old name hit the ward like a dropped instrument. Half the staff turned. Rachel kept her voice level. Colonel? Vale's eyes moved over her bright blue scrubs, her ID badge, the cheap pen clipped to her pocket, the tired shoes on her feet. You look different. So do you. Not enough, according to my physical therapist. A nervous laugh escaped from one of the interns. Vale did not look away from Rachel. You saved him. I bought time. That is usually what saving is. Sloan stepped forward. With respect, Colonel, Nurse Callahan acted outside normal chain of command. Vale turned his head slowly. With respect, Doctor, if normal chain of command had worked, I would not be standing here. Sloan's mouth closed. Mercer hid the smallest smile. Rachel did not. She had forgotten how Vale could silence a room without raising his voice. It was not volume. It was gravity. Vale opened the leather folder and placed a photograph on the counter. It showed Caleb Rourke, 7 years younger, standing on a desert airstrip beside a tilted rescue helicopter. Blood marked his sleeve. Dust covered his face. His grin was wild. Beside him stood Rachel in tan combat gear, helmet under one arm, medical pack on her back, gray-blue eyes narrowed against the sun. Her hair had been tucked under a cap. Her expression had been harder then, less tired, more certain. A young airman stood between them, smiling so wide it hurt to look at him. Eli Mason. Rachel's throat tightened before she could stop it. Sloan looked at the photograph. His face changed. What is this? He asked. Vale kept his hand on the folder. Operation Nightglass. Mercer straightened. That file is classified. It was, Vale said. Parts have been cleared for medical relevance. Rachel stared at him. Why? Because Lieutenant Commander Rourke's present condition is tied to that mission. The fluorescent lights seemed to hum louder. Rachel heard the monitor in room 412. Beep, 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 alive. Vale lowered his voice. Rourke was exposed to a blast compound during extraction. Rare neurotoxic residue, low dose, delayed effects. His team suspected it caused intermittent vascular inflammation. He was being evaluated quietly before his spinal collapse. Sloan frowned. That was not in his records. No, Vale said. It was in mine. Rachel looked toward Caleb's room. You knew he was at risk. We knew there was a risk. We did not know it would present like this. Someone should have told the hospital. Someone should have, Vale said. His answer carried weight. Not excuse. Admission. Rachel picked up the photo. Eli's smile burned through her. What are you not saying? Vale's jaw tightened. The compound was used again 2 weeks ago. Mercer turned sharply. Where? Off the coast of Virginia. Interdiction operation. 2 seals exposed, 1 recovered. 1 developed transient paralysis that reversed after decompression and targeted anti-inflammatory treatment. Rachel's pulse began to climb. Caleb's not isolated. No. Sloan folded his arms. Even if this is true, it does not change the fact that Rourke has a compressive lesion. He needs neurosurgery, not battlefield mythology. Rachel turned on him. He needs both. Sloan's eyes flashed. You are still a nurse. Vale looked at Sloan. She was a pararescue jumper, senior enlisted medical operator, combat rescue specialist. She treated blast trauma, spinal compromise, airway failure, crush injury, drowning, and hemorrhage under conditions your residency never imagined. Sloan flushed. That does not give her surgical privileges. No, Rachel said. It gives me pattern recognition. Sloan laughed once. You recognized a nickname. I recognized his eyes. The room went quiet again. Rachel held Sloan's stare. I recognized a man trapped inside a body everyone else had already buried. A young nurse near the medication cart wiped her eyes. Sloan saw it and hated Rachel more for it. Vale leaned close to Rachel. Rourke asked for you when he woke again. Rachel looked at Caleb's door. How much can he move? Fingers on the right hand, Mercer said. Barely, but he tracks. He understands. He tries to speak. Rachel grabbed the chart. Then we move now. Sloan stepped into her path. You are not making decisions in my neurological unit. Rachel stopped 1 inch from him. For 6 months, she had bent around people like him. For 6 months, she had swallowed insults, clipped her badge straight, lowered her eyes, and reminded herself that quiet was safer. Caleb had changed that. Or maybe he had simply returned what she had tried to bury. Your neurological unit left him paralyzed for 3 days while you argued about liability. Sloan's face hardened. I can have you suspended. You can try. Vale closed the folder. And while you are trying, I will call the VA regional director, the Air Force Surgeon General's liaison, and every oversight attorney whose number I have. Mercer stepped beside Vale. And I will document that a consulting neurologist obstructed urgent evaluation after receiving new military medical evidence. Sloan looked from one to the other. For the first time since Rachel had met him, he had no audience on his side. He backed away. This will be reviewed. Everything will be reviewed, Mercer said. Rachel moved past him. Room 412 smelled different now. Not because anything had changed in the air, but because hope had entered it, and hope always made fear sharper. Caleb's eyes found Rachel as she came in. Vale followed her. Mercer stayed near the door. Sloan remained outside the glass, watching like a man seeing his authority leak away. Rachel leaned over Caleb. Morning, Harpoon. His lips trembled. Pave. Vale's head lifted. Rachel froze. Pave. Her call sign. Not official. Not written down. Eli had given it to her after she climbed into a burning wreck because the aircraft beacon had failed, and someone said only a paving stone would be stubborn enough to walk into fire twice. Pave. Caleb remembered. Rachel swallowed. Still with me? His eyes blinked once. Yes. I need you to listen. We found a possible link to night glass. That means your paralysis may not be final. But we have to move fast. His right index finger twitched. Rachel slid a whiteboard beneath his hand. Can you tap? Tap, yes. Pain in your back worsening? Tap. Yes. Burning in your legs? Tap. Yes. Can you feel this? She pressed a finger beneath his left foot. Nothing. She pressed beneath his right. His jaw tightened. Tap. Rachel looked at Vale. Sacral sparing may be present. Incomplete injury. Sloan spoke from the doorway. That is generous interpretation. Rachel did not turn. No. It is the first thing you should have checked before deciding his life was over. Caleb's eyes shifted toward Sloan. Rage burned there. Not wild. Focused. Rachel saw it and understood. He had not only been trapped inside his body, he had been trapped inside everyone else's conclusion. Mercer entered with a tablet. OR says neurosurgery can take him in 2 hours if anesthesia clears him. Too slow, Rachel said. Sloan snapped. You do not dictate surgical schedules. Rachel looked at the monitor. Heart rate 118. Blood pressure dropping again. Skin cool. Sweat at the hairline. Caleb's pupils stayed sharp, but his body was beginning to fail. Neurogenic shock is worsening, she said. Mercer saw the numbers. Pressure is 84/48. Rachel moved. Get fluids ready. Keep MAP above 85. Page anesthesia stat. Tell neurosurgery he is declining. A nurse hesitated. Sloan barked, do not take orders from her. Vale stepped into the doorway. Take the orders. The nurse moved. The room became motion. Rachel adjusted Caleb's positioning, checked his airway, watched his breathing, monitored his pressure. No wasted movement. No panic. The tremor everyone had seen in her hands on quiet shifts was gone. Her fingers were steady enough to thread a needle in a moving aircraft. Caleb's lips moved. Rachel leaned down. Say it again. Eli. Her chest split open. Vale closed his eyes for half a second. Rachel forced herself to breathe. He is not here, she said softly. Caleb's eyes filled. I know. The words were barely air, but they landed like a confession. Rachel looked at Vale. What did he tell you? Vale did not answer. Rachel knew before he spoke. Caleb was with Eli when he died. The room narrowed. Monitor sounds faded. The white walls tilted. For 6 years, Rachel had carried the last image she saw of Eli Mason. A medevac bay, blood on her gloves, his hand slipping from hers as another casualty screamed behind her. She had believed she left him alone. Caleb's eyes held hers. No, he forced out. Rachel bent closer. No what? His right finger dragged across the whiteboard. Not letters, just a line. Then another. He could not write. Not yet. Frustration twisted his face. Rachel caught his hand. Do not fight the board. Save your energy. Eli said. His blood pressure dipped. Mercer swore under his breath. Rachel snapped back into command. He is crashing. Where is anesthesia? 4 minutes, a nurse said. We do not have 4. Sloan stepped in. Move aside. Rachel turned. He held a medication syringe. What is that? She asked. Sedation. For what indication? He is agitated. Rachel's voice dropped. He is hypotensive and neurologically compromised. You sedate him now without airway control and he may never wake up. Sloan's face flushed. I am the physician, and I am the person stopping you from killing him. The sentence hit the room like a slap. Sloan's hand froze. Vale moved so fast Rachel almost did not see it. One moment he was near the wall. The next he had Sloan's wrist secured, not violently, but completely. Set it down, Vale said. Sloan stared at him. You cannot touch me. I just did. Mercer took the syringe and read the label. His face went pale. This dose is high. Rachel looked at Sloan. Why? Sloan said nothing. Caleb's heart rate spiked. His eyes locked on the syringe. Fear, not of paralysis. Recognition. Rachel leaned over him. Did he give you this before? Tap. Yes. Every person in the room stopped. Rachel felt cold move through her. When? Caleb tried to speak. His lips formed one word. Night. Mercer's expression changed. Medication logs show no nighttime sedation yesterday. Rachel looked at Sloan. Sloan stepped back. This is absurd. Vale released his wrist. Captain, secure his access until pharmacy audits every controlled medication administered to Rourke. Mercer nodded. Sloan, you are relieved from this case pending review. Sloan's mask finally cracked. You have no idea what you are doing. If this patient dies, it is on all of you. Rachel turned back to Caleb. No, she said. If he dies, it will not be because no one tried. Anesthesia arrived, then neurosurgery, then transport. The hallway filled with motion. As they rolled Caleb toward the elevator, his right hand caught Rachel's sleeve. Weak, barely there, but holding. She walked beside him. I am not leaving, she said. His eyes closed once. Trust. The elevator doors opened. Rachel stepped in with the team. Sloan stood at the end of the hallway, isolated, stripped of his case, his power, and the illusion that nobody would question him. Vale remained outside the elevator. Before the doors closed, he looked at Rachel. Bring him back, Pave. Rachel nodded once. The doors shut. And for the first time in 6 years, she did not flinch at her old name. The operating suite was too clean for the kind of fear Rachel carried into it. Bright lights, polished floors, blue sterile drapes, soft voices behind masks. War had always been louder. Dust in the mouth. Rotor wash. Blood on dirt. Someone shouting for a medic with a voice already halfway to grief. This was quieter. That made every beep sharper. Caleb lay prone beneath the surgical lights while the neurosurgeon, Dr. Meera Patel, studied the MRI images on the wall. Patel was small, calm, and direct. Rachel liked her immediately. There is compression at T5, T6, Patel said, more extensive than the first read suggested, epidural collection, inflammatory swelling, possible vascular component. Can you decompress? Rachel asked. Patel looked at her. I can try. That was not my question. A hint of respect touched Patel's eyes. Yes, but timing matters. If the cord has been under pressure this long, recovery is uncertain. Uncertain is not dead. No, Patel said. It is not. Anesthesia called out the pressure. MAP 78. Rachel moved closer. Need 85 or better for spinal perfusion. Patel glanced at the anesthesiologist. She is right. The anesthesiologist adjusted medication. Rachel stayed near Caleb's head, where she could see the part of his face not covered by tape and tubes. He looked younger, unconscious. The anger was gone. So was the command presence. Just a man on a table. Body open to strangers. Life balanced on hands and timing. Rachel whispered, You do not get to quit now, Harpoon. No answer. But the monitor steadied. Outside the OR, Harborview began to unravel. Captain Mercer ordered an audit of Sloan's medication access. Pharmacy pulled controlled substance records. Security reviewed hallway footage. By 09 p.m., they found the first missing vial. By 09:30, they found 4. By 09:45, they found video of Sloan entering Caleb's room at 0217 with no nurse present, no order placed, and no chart entry afterward. At 1000, Mercer called VA police. Sloan did not wait for them. He vanished from the neurology wing. Jimmy Vale would have joked that cowards always found their legs when consequences arrived. Rachel was not there to hear it. She was in the operating room, watching Caleb bleed. Pressure dropping, anesthesia said. Patel's hands did not slow. Suction. Blood darkened the field. Rachel saw the pattern before anyone named it. That is not just venous oozing. Patel looked closer. Small arterial bleeder. Left side. I see it. The room tightened. Seconds became heavy. Rachel's hands stayed at her sides because this was not a field hospital. She could not reach in, could not clamp, could not pack a wound with gauze while bullets hit the wall. All she could do was stand there and watch another person try to save the man she had promised not to leave. That was harder. Pressure 68, anesthesia said. Rachel stepped to the head of the bed. Caleb, listen to me. Patel worked. Suction hissed. The monitor screamed. Harpoon, you held a beachhead with a broken shoulder and 2 magazines. You dragged Eli Mason 20 yards while rounds were walking toward you. You do not fade on a clean table with lights over your head. Anesthesia looked at her, startled. Rachel kept going. Eli told me you were too stubborn to die pretty. Prove him right. The heart rhythm stuttered, then held. Patel found the bleeder. Got it. The room exhaled. Rachel did not. Not yet. The surgery lasted 3 hours and 42 minutes. Patel removed the compressive collection, relieved pressure around the cord, and took samples for toxicology and pathology. She found signs of inflammation that did not match ordinary post-traumatic swelling. Rachel watched every step. When it was over, Patel pulled off her gloves and looked at her. He has a chance. Rachel's eyes burned. How much of one? I do not sell miracles. I am not buying one. Patel nodded. Then I will say this. His cord was compressed, not destroyed. There were preserved pathways. He may regain sensation. Movement is possible. Walking is unknown. Possible. Rachel held on to that word. Possible had weight. Possible could keep a man alive through rehab. Possible could turn a room from a grave into a battlefield. Caleb was transferred to ICU. Rachel walked beside him again. The ward had changed while she was gone. VA police stood near the elevators. Mercer's face was grim. Vale waited outside ICU with 2 officers and a hospital administrator Rachel had never seen. Sloan? She asked. Gone, Mercer said. Rachel stopped. What do you mean, gone? Left the hospital before VA police arrived. His phone is off. His car is missing. Vale's jaw flexed. We are treating him as a flight risk. Rachel looked through the ICU glass at Caleb. He was drugging him. Mercer nodded once. It appears so. Why? The administrator cleared her throat. We should not speculate. Rachel turned to her. The woman took 1 step back. Rachel did not raise her voice. Speculate. Mercer answered instead. Sloan was principal investigator for a private neurorehabilitation trial. Experimental implant-assisted therapy. High funding. High publicity. He needed candidates with complete paralysis and strong military profiles. Rachel felt the room go cold. You think he wanted Caleb hopeless. We think he needed him classified as permanently complete. Vale's voice was low. A decorated Navy SEAL in his trial would bring money. Rachel looked at Caleb's unconscious face. Sloan had not seen a man. He had seen a grant. A headline. A body useful only if it stayed broken. Rage rose so clean it frightened her. For years, anger had come tangled with grief. This was different. This was pure. Mercer watched her. Rachel. I am fine. Vale said. No, you are focused. She looked at him. He knew the difference. He had taught it to her. A nurse opened the ICU door. Room is ready. 1 visitor only until he stabilizes. Mercer nodded toward Rachel. Go. She entered. Caleb lay surrounded by machines, but the stillness felt different now. Not abandoned, protected. Rachel sat beside him. For the first time since Vale arrived, there was quiet. No Sloan, no audience, no orders, just Caleb breathing through the aftermath. Rachel reached into her pocket and took out the old photograph Vale had left on the counter. She had not meant to keep it. Somehow it had ended up in her hand. She looked at Eli's grin. You always did know how to haunt a room, she whispered. Caleb's right finger moved. Rachel leaned forward. Caleb? His eyelids fluttered, not open, but movement. She placed her fingers against his hand. Can you hear me? Tap. Barely. Yes. Her heart stumbled. The surgery is done. The cord was compressed, not destroyed. You have a chance. Tap. Yes. His lips moved around the tube. No sound. Do not talk. Save it. His finger dragged once against her palm. Again. Again. Rachel understood he was trying to spell. She grabbed a letterboard. Slow. His finger moved. E-L-I. Rachel closed her eyes. Eli. Tap. Yes. He spelled again, slower. T-O-L-D-M-E. Rachel's breath caught. Told me. Tap. He rested. Sweat formed at his temple. Enough, Rachel said. Later. His finger pressed harder. No. She swallowed. Okay. Slow. He spelled with brutal effort. Tellpave. Rachel froze. Telpave. Her eyes blurred. Telpave what? Caleb's finger shook. Notherfault. Not her fault. The room fell away. Rachel covered her mouth with one hand. For 6 years, she had replayed Eli Mason's death like a punishment. The wrong angle, the delayed extraction, the blood loss she could not stop, the other casualty screaming, her hands full of one life while another slipped away. She had never known Eli had spoken after she left him with Caleb. Never known he had left a message. Not her fault. Caleb's eyes opened. They were wet. Rachel leaned close. I did not know. His finger tapped once. Yes. I should have stayed. His finger moved hard. No. The tube kept him silent, but his eyes said what his body could not. No. Rachel lowered her forehead to the bed rail. The sob that escaped her was small and broken. She hated it, then stopped hating it. Caleb's finger rested against her hand. For a long time, neither of them moved. Outside the ICU, the hunt for Sloan widened. Security found his office half-emptied, files missing, a laptop gone. A nurse reported seeing him near the rehab research wing 30 minutes before he disappeared. At 15:20, VA police discovered Caleb Rourke's signed consent form for Sloan's experimental trial. The signature was dated the night before Rachel called him Harpoon. Caleb had been unable to move his hands then, unable to speak clearly. The signature was forged. Mercer carried the document to ICU. Rachel read it once, then again. Her voice went flat. He was going to enroll him without consent. Mercer nodded. The ethics board had not approved emergency enrollment. Vale looked through the glass. Sloan needed the patient transferred to his research facility by Monday. Rachel folded the paper carefully. Then we make sure Caleb is able to testify. Mercer hesitated. That could take weeks. Then we keep him alive for weeks. Vale studied her. There is more. Rachel looked up. Sloan's research sponsor is Blackridge Neurosystems. Mercer's face darkened. Defense contractor? Medical Technology Division. They have military rehabilitation contracts. Rachel knew the name. Everyone in combat rescue medicine knew Blackridge. They made battlefield monitoring systems, neural mobility prototypes, adaptive exoskeletons, some useful, some dangerous, all expensive. Vale continued. Night glass exposure victims were valuable to them. Rachel understood. Rare neuroinflammatory spinal presentations, decorated operators, public sympathy, government funding. Caleb was not only a patient to Sloan, he was a key to a vault. A phone rang at the nurses' station outside ICU. A moment later, a security officer entered. Colonel Vale. We found Dr. Sloan. Rachel stood. Where? The officer swallowed. Parking garage, level 3. He is with Lieutenant Commander Rourke's wife. Rachel's blood stopped. Caleb's eyes snapped open. His monitor spiked. Mercer moved. Caleb, stay calm. Rachel was already at the door. Vale caught her arm. Rachel, let go. He may be armed. Then hurry. They ran. VA police moved with them. The parking garage smelled of exhaust, concrete dust, and rain blown in from the open sides. Level 3 was half empty. A black sedan idled near the ramp. Sloan stood beside it, coat open, hair disordered, one hand gripping the arm of a woman in her early 40s. Megan Rourke. Rachel recognized her from the photo taped inside Caleb's chart. Megan's face was pale. Sloan held a small syringe near her neck. Not pressed. Close enough. VA police spread out. Dr. Sloan? Mercer called. Let her go. Sloan laughed. It was not the controlled laugh from the ward. It was thin and cracked. You have no idea what you ruined. Rachel stepped forward. Vale hissed, Do not. She kept moving. Sloan saw her. His eyes lit with hate. This is your fault. Rachel stopped 15 feet away. No, this is your choice. Megan trembled. Please. Rachel's voice softened. Megan, look at me. Megan's eyes shifted. Caleb is alive. Surgery worked. He has a chance. Megan's face broke. Sloan yanked her back. Do not listen to her. She is a traumatized rescue medic playing hero. Rachel kept her hands visible. You forged consent. You sedated him. You tried to keep him paralyzed enough for your trial. They were going to change spinal medicine. They? Sloan's mouth tightened. Rachel saw the mistake. They promised you funding. Sloan's eyes flicked. There. Fear, not of police, of whoever paid him. Blackridge? Rachel asked. Sloan's grip tightened on Megan. You do not understand what people like that can do. Vale stepped into view. I do. Sloan looked at him. Vale's face was stone. And right now they are letting you take the fall alone. Sloan's breathing changed. Rachel saw the angle of his wrist, saw the syringe, saw Megan's knees shaking, saw the sedan door open behind them. A man sat in the driver's seat. Not hospital security, not VA police. Black jacket, gloved hands, watching. Rachel's brain snapped into old rhythm. Assess, analyze, act. Sloan, she said, louder now. Who is in the car? The driver moved. Vale saw him too late. The sedan lurched backward. Sloan panicked. The syringe dipped toward Megan's neck. Rachel moved. Not like a nurse. Not like a woman afraid of being judged. Like someone who had crossed open ground under fire because a wounded man was still breathing. She closed the distance in 3 steps, slammed Sloan's wrist away from Megan's neck, hooked his elbow, turned her hip, and drove him into the concrete without striking his head. The syringe skittered across the floor. Megan fell into Vale's arms. The sedan sped toward the ramp. VA police shouted. One officer fired at a tire. The car fishtailed, slammed into a concrete pillar, and stopped smoking. The driver tried to run. Mercer tackled him against a parked truck. Sloan screamed beneath Rachel. My hand! You broke my hand! Rachel pinned his wrist. You tried to steal a man's body while he was trapped inside it, he gasped. You think your hand matters? Vale stepped beside her. Rachel. She breathed once, then released pressure, controlled herself, and let VA police cuff him. Megan stood shaking near the wall. Rachel walked to her. Are you hurt? Megan shook her head. He said Caleb was being moved, said he needed my signature. I thought. Her voice broke. Rachel held her shoulders. You did nothing wrong. Megan looked into her eyes. Can he hear me? Yes. Can I see him? Rachel nodded. He has been waiting. At 2100, Caleb was awake enough for extubation. Megan sat beside him, holding his right hand. Rachel stood near the foot of the bed with Patel, Mercer, and Vale. The respiratory therapist removed the tube. Caleb coughed hard. Megan cried. Rachel watched his oxygen numbers. Stable. His voice came out shredded. Meg. Megan bent over him. I'm here. His eyes closed. One tear slid into his hair. Then he looked past her to Rachel. Pave. Rachel stepped closer. You sound terrible. His cracked lips tried to smile. You look worse. Megan laughed through tears. Vale looked away. Rachel almost smiled. Caleb swallowed. Eli. I know, Rachel said. He told me. Caleb's eyes held hers. Had to tell you. You did. Not your fault. Rachel's throat tightened. I am trying to believe that. Caleb's right fingers curled. Then his left hand moved. Barely. A twitch, small as a breath, but everyone saw it. Megan covered her mouth. Patel moved to the bedside. Do that again. Caleb's face tightened. His left index finger moved once. Rachel felt the room change. Hope became visible. Patel nodded. That is new. Caleb looked at Sloan's empty place through the glass, as if he could see all the people who had decided what his body would never do. Then he looked back at Rachel. Not dead. Rachel took his hand. No, she said. Not even close. 3 weeks later, Caleb Rourke stood for 10 seconds between parallel bars. His knees shook. Megan covered her mouth. Rachel waited at the end in bright blue scrubs. I stood, he whispered. You stood, Rachel said. Sloan's arrest broke open everything. Investigators found forged consent forms, missing sedation records, and payments from Blackridge Neurosystems. Caleb was the first who could still speak the truth through a call sign. Sloan lost his license. Blackridge lost federal contracts. Harborview changed policy across the VA region. Every veteran with catastrophic paralysis now received a second neurological review before prognosis became final. The nurses called it Harpoon Review. Vale later handed Rachel a sealed note from Eli Mason's file. "Pave, do not carry me like a ruck. Save who you can. Stop pretending you are Stone. That counts," Rachel cried in the locker room. Harborview opened the Veteran Neurological Rapid Response Program with Rachel as clinical lead. She wore bright blue scrubs. "No patient should need a heroic past to earn dignity," she told the room. Caleb should not have needed a call sign to be believed. A year later, Caleb walked across the rehab courtyard with one cane. At the end, he handed Rachel a faded pararescue patch. "Eli said I should return it when you stopped running." Rachel pinned it inside her locker beside Eli's note and a whiteboard with 2 words written across the top. Not finished. Rachel never promised anyone they would walk. She promised they would not be abandoned in silence. Caleb never called himself healed. Rachel never called herself a hero. But every morning, in a ward that once mistook silence for surrender, they taught people a better word: not finished. The end.